I had my CV1 Rift. I had nothing to do. I was depressed. The world was on fire, it seemed like. Everything
Yeah.
was, you couldn't do anything. And the next thing you know, I'm doing comedy. It's something I always wanted to do, tried to do, but I could be vulnerable, but not in that way at the time. So I didn't do it earlier. And then I get in the VR and I was like, you know what? Let's try it. And so that's really what got me going, was doing it in VR.
Welcome to Overeducated and Underemployed. We got a great episode this week with Epolight Lavalle. She's a great friend of mine that I've been performing with for several years in virtual reality. And we had a really interesting talk about everything that she's been through and performing comedy in VR. She's also friends with Tommy Simbazo. I don't perform as much in VR as I used to anymore. I do a lot more in person. I spend a lot more time on this podcast. And if you're not in a position to, whether you're like just not in a comedy market or you're like not able to travel very much, I think it's a great place to get started in stand-up comedy and figure it out if it's something you even like doing. The stakes feel a little lower too. Anyway, so I'm looking forward to y'all hearing that. Stay tuned for that episode, that interview. We are returning the rest of the season to a bit more of the traditional interview format that you're used to on this podcast. I will occasionally be doing these documentaries. I'll probably do another episode about Athfest that is a little bit more like a documentary, but we got a lot of great interviews coming up this season. We got Lige Curry. We got Franz Nicolai. I'm meeting with him tomorrow, so that's coming up in a few weeks. And we got Chuck Reese coming on the show. We've got a lot of great guests coming. We got other great comedians. So this week and the next couple weeks, we got some great comic friends of mine coming on. Evan Rossi and Sean Lubin coming on. I'm not going to spill the beans, but we've got a lot of great guests. We're really stepping it up. I'm really excited for everything that we've got coming for you this season. I mentioned we got Lige Curry coming on the show. I spent the day with P-Funk in Jacksonville at the Jacksonville Jazz Fest. And, man, that was a hell of an experience. There were thousands of people there to see them. Like I said, I've spent a lot of time with P-Funk this year. This was the biggest crowd I've seen them play for, and that's always fun. The staff at Jacksonville Jazz was also super kind. I just want to give a shout-out to all the staff at the Jazz Fest. They were super helpful in getting me with the band. I had plans to meet them already, but they were super cool about everything while still maintaining their protocols. So I just shout out to those guys. We've got a lot of great stuff coming this season, so please hit subscribe. More live performances on the YouTube channel too. If you haven't checked that out, got a lot of Taylor Hollingsworth songs, Lee Baines, Parliament Funkadelic. More to come too, so please check that out. We've got a little studio set up here to start recording live performances as people come through. So hit subscribe on that YouTube channel. It really helps YouTube tell the algorithm who to show these videos to. So if you like what I'm doing, please hit subscribe, please like, please share, all that jazz. I'm really trying to get the watch hours up here. Please hit play in the background while you're doing your dishes or whatever. I appreciate y'all so much. Thanks for tuning in.
Welcome to Overeducated and Underemployed. I'm here with Epolight Lavalle, one of my favorite comics to work with on a regular basis. We've been performing together in VR for almost 3 years now, because that's when I started. It was almost 3 years ago.
Wow.
And yeah, I'm really happy to have you here. I'm going to ask you the same question I ask everybody, and then a variation of it that I ask comics.
Sure.
What's the first song that you remember loving as a kid?
let's see. It was older than me, but I remember the Bee Gees' "Staying Alive." My favorite, like one of my favorite songs, just to pop on and listen to.
Man, everybody learned CPR to that song, right?
Yeah, I don't know. A lot of people took a lot of breath away probably with that song too. So, especially with John Travolta dancing.
I wonder how many ribs he broke.
I don't know how many panties got dropped them nights. I'm just saying. Oh my god,
man! And even those Santa commercials, man, they make me want to I don't know, relive that scene in Bad Santa. Anyway.
Oh my god, I didn't know you like to reach into Santa's sack and pull out a treat. That is.
And
Lord.
This is why I put a theme song at the beginning so the algorithm doesn't screw it up if we get dirty early.
Oh man, sorry.
No, it was me. I'm just pointing out if you put a theme song at the beginning, it pads it for the algorithm, and so it doesn't get too dirty too early.
I was keeping it clean. I'm not saying any expletives yet. Still early. It's still early.
Yeah. So the variation of that question that I ask comedians is, what's the first joke that you remember, like, usually like retelling is how I ask it, but really just the first joke that really stuck with you as a kid.
Oh, it's a joke that stuck with me as a kid?
Yeah, whether it was like a schoolyard joke or like usually I ask it is the first joke that you remember like retelling to people, to your friends, your family, whatever.
Oh man, I can tell you exactly who it is. One of my favorite comedians is DC Benny. I was older. I was already in out of college, but this is the joke that I, before I became a comedian, would say all the time. It was DC Benny. Look up "White Boy Slays the Apollo," and that's the entire bit. Like me, I'm scared of that white boy. What go on? You know what I mean? It was, I don't know. It just drew me, and he became my favorite comedian after watching that. One of my favorites.
You're touching on something that we've talked about on this podcast before, where like when you're learning to play guitar or you're learning to play any instrument or whatever, you start by playing cover songs. And with comedians, like you start by writing shitty jokes. You don't start.
Yeah.
You start maybe by telling other people's jokes in the schoolyard or whatever, but it really you can't go on stage and do a cover joke. That's that's not allowed.
You could probably if you explain that you're covering somebody's joke.
Yeah,
but, like,
I suppose,
you're not getting the same love.
Then I feel like
you're not getting the same love, and honestly,
I feel like it's not going to be well received.
Dude better have died. That's all I'm saying. He better have just died, and you're like, hey, let me tell you my favorite Norm McDonald joke. Okay,
yeah.
Bam, because that's happened.
Especially if it's like a quick one-liner, like he was known for. I feel like you can maybe get away with that a little easier too. But yeah, I remember. And I've talked about this before, so I won't go too into it. But for me, it was Who's on First, Abbott and Costello.
Oh, it's a phenomenal joke.
I just remember like telling that to like friends and family, and then doing it in a talent show. And
oh wow,
it was. I was in like elementary school, but
I don't know if I can memorize all that. That's wild. That is. You must have really been into it.
I think the thing about that joke is it's all structured kind of the same. So you really only had to remember the list of names at the end of the day. If you just remembered like the starting lineup of the team, the rest of it, you just were able to hang that onto the skeleton of the joke, you know? And I never really thought about it like that before, though, because it is like a really long bit.
Yeah.
But I didn't memorize it word for word.
Like 6-7 minute bit, man, and when they fully go out.
Yeah, and we didn't memorize it word for word. I think we just had the structure and the names, and it probably, and the reason I'm like stuck on this for a second is because it's the way I tell my jokes that I've written too, where it's like I have the skeleton and I have the points that are super important, but I'm pretty organic about how I get there.
Yeah,
almost every time. And that's like, kind of what keeps it feeling fresh for me.
I feel like that's how I try and write a lot of things, is that like I will have a lot of times my writing process, I don't know how yours is, I'll just take a premise. A lot of times in VR, I don't care nearly as much as I do in VR as I do in person, is I'll just riff it out on a stage. And it's been Sunday for me, which has been it's been a phenomenal day for me to do that. It's on Sunday here in VR. And then I'll take that, see what I got out of that, and then now structure jokes around that premise, the crazy riffs, organic riffs that I've done, and then go, okay, you know what? Car doesn't work. I can't see car. Okay, white Ford Pontiac or in a year, and then okay, now I got it. So I just take that. I said car the other day, and I'm like, you don't want to just say car. You want gray Honda Civic. You're now being descriptive.
Put the image in their head. Yeah,
exactly. I'll listen back to it and go, okay, now, and then I rewrite it and take it, and then put the jokes in. And then once I have it written down, I'll practice it in real life. And you go and you're doing that, and okay, now I got it. But then when it's showtime, when it's actual show, people pay money to do it. And I'm like, all right, I'm doing this joke. And whatever comes out of my mouth at that point on, if I forget some of the lines or whatever, it's all about the performance at that point for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm similar. Like, I probably get a little bit further in the writing process before I even tell a joke, just because I just don't like riff very much on stage. I will definitely, though, like the first time I tell a joke is pretty much always in VR. And the first time also doesn't tell you that much in terms of the response. It's more about you getting it out. And then I think the second, the third time, that's when you start to pay attention. All right, they laughed here. This didn't work. And you start to restructure it. Sometimes it's just your word order needs restructuring.
Definitely.
But I think both of us have the advantage of, by the time we even get in front of a live audience at all, we've had the chance to like work it out just a little bit further than anybody that's telling a joke for the first time there that night.
It's so true, because like my friend Paul Carson, one of the funniest writers, and comes up with some of the wild stuff in the Philadelphia area. I would let him borrow my headset. He'd come in time from time, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna get one," and he finally gets one. He's like, "This is amazing to run through first drafts, run through stuff," and because on stage, even at an open mic, I don't like to just read my jokes off of paper.
Oh no.
But that could be a part of the process, because sometimes at an open mic, it's your time to work on you.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm working on performance. Sometimes I'm working on just the words. If I can read a joke, just dry dock it, a joke, and it gets a response, I'm like, okay, this is a good joke. Now just wait till I put the performance behind it.
Right.
And everything behind it. And so he just recently started coming into VR a lot because he got a headset, and he's like,
I think I met him once.
Great.
Yeah.
I can look at my notes. I can, underneath my little eye socket here, and check it out and see if the jokes work, because he worries so much about memorizing. And then I was like, my problem with memorizing is that sometimes I'll tell a joke and I'm like, dang, this is the second revision punchline. I'm up to revision 8, but I memorized revision 2 so many times that I'm like, darn it, I'm screwing up my punchlines, my future tags, my transitions to the next joke.
Sometimes that second iteration might be better and you gave up on it too soon. That's been something I've run into, where I'll rewrite a joke like too many times.
Oh, yeah. Well, you always got to try it. That goes back to like testing your material out. Sometimes I'll go through a whole joke just to check one punchline. So I'll drive 40 minutes, get 4 minutes of stage time, 2 minutes is dedicated to one minuscule line out of a 3-minute bit. And I take all that time just to check one part of a joke and go, okay, that punchline was terrible. No response. Let's go back to the different revision. But yeah.
Often, do you like fully abandon a joke that you are like really dedicated to versus like just rewriting it until it works?
I don't think you should ever abandon a joke. I just don't think that if it's not working in your tight 3, 5, 7, 10 minutes, because there's been jokes that like, I really love this, but it doesn't get the love. And then 4 years went by and I go back and I wrote a different joke. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, remember that joke I did? And then I pull that in behind it. And because of the flow and order, it now works and hits different.
Yeah. And one thing Shane Moss talked to me about when he was here was like the first like 10 minutes of his sets now aren't necessarily even full of jokes. He's not even necessarily going for a laugh at that point. He's really just trying to bring you into his world. And then once you're in his world, he said, we can play in that world together. And I think that's the same as what you're talking about. It's once you have like that longer time to really, I feel like there's some jokes that a lot of the time for me, like the reason they don't work is because the audience doesn't know me well enough yet. If they like understood a little bit more where I was coming, and I've worked to like put like a leftist joke in front of my gender neutral bathroom joke, for instance, so people know where it's coming from. But I think like when you have that opportunity, that lengthy set to like for the audience to really get to know you, that's when a lot of the jokes that might not have worked in the past, that's when they start to work. Yeah, I agree.
It is hard to tell how jokes work with only 3, 4, or 5 minute open mic set times.
It's hard.
It is tough because you know that they don't have a chance to know where you're coming from, as you said. But also, you might come into a room where, you know, that's not their vibe, that's not their style. Trust me, I have that all over the place. Like, some crowds, I can bring out some older retired material of a subject that's always hot topic with some crowds, and other crowds just eat it up. So sometimes you got to find that ebb and flow of what is going to work with this crowd, and sometimes you get surprised.
What you're saying is making me realize how far ahead of ourselves we've gotten here, just because I know you, but our audience doesn't know you at all. And so I want to back up a lot, and then we'll get back to where we are now with the VR comedy world. But you mentioned you didn't start doing comedy until after college, and you were much older and much later in life. I'm similar. I didn't start till my mid 30s, late 30s. I think that there's something about having that life experience behind you when you start doing comedy that kind of puts you like a little bit at an edge. You're not like 20 years old. I think there's advantages to doing it from 20 years old on, but I think there's also advantages to like coming out the gate later in life.
I mean,
how did you express yourself artistically, like when you were younger, before you got into comedy? What were some of the ways that you expressed yourself artistically?
I was into a lot of different things. Legos would open my mind. Theater. I saw improv and loved improv. So that was something that was, I never really did it with a troupe, but if there was opportunities to do that, then that was what I did. And so there was a lot of wild opportunities of just between sports or that. I was always the goofy kid. I was always the clown. I was always trying to have people laugh. And
so you were like the class clown. You wanted to be the center of attention and stuff growing up a lot of the time.
Yeah, a lot of times it was like an outlet for me. Because a lot of times you have your own inner struggles, even as a kid, and it's easy for me to have people laugh instead of dwelling on things in life I didn't think I could change.
I think you've definitely had a lot of struggles that your average person doesn't have to deal with.
I don't generally tell people that I am trans on stage because it's weird, because the moment you go, hey, you know, that 5 years ago, whatever, 6 years, what it is, I started, I didn't do it. And then I was like, all right, let's just come out for this. on stage. And it was like a lot of, yay, all right, positive. But then there's also, you can say, hey, I'm a proud trans person. And you'd see people get up and leave, or someone you would talk to, just having a conversation.
And they just shut down or
just go, don't want to see, don't look at you. It's hard sometimes to be on stage and let my jokes bomb first, okay? Let me mess up first. Let me just go, hey, they're not funny. But when you can't get 2 lines into a 10-minute set without people, time to go, it weighs heavy. And it's not, and I perform in front of a lot of African American crowds, and that's my favorite demographic to perform in front of. But at the same time, sometimes that's not the demographic that loves a lot of those jokes a lot of times. So it's halfway through, I had to reinvent myself. So there's some people in the Philly scene that don't know, because they came in after my 2 to 3 year mark, where I was like, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not going to that, because I have people that just love you. This guy's like, oh, I need to get you on a show. I gotta get you on a show. 2 Mother's Days went by. I gotta get you on the show. And then as soon as I have a fundraiser show for trans bathroom rights in Delaware, and I start working that material in front of the Philly scene, and then all of a sudden that guy doesn't want to book me on a show, or another person is not there to book me on a show. So it's, wow, what changed? Was I not funny anymore? Is it I'm not that thotty white girl that you thought? Or it's so that's the type of things too. How many shows have I not been booked for because of that? And a friend, she's from Baltimore, met through Tommy Sambazo, right over there. She just moved to New York. She's a lesbian. But that's the thing. She has 2 different stage names.
I see.
So and I'm thinking about doing the same thing. If you want Samantha, you're going to get the Stoddy me. But if you want Epolight Lavalle, then you might get the trans me. But she has 2 pages. One, if you call that to book a show, she's not a lesbian. She is just, I don't know, or whatever it is. I don't know her handles off that. And if you book her, the other account, you call that, then she's a lesbian, and she'll open up her joke book, and that's brilliant. Right. That's how I feel.
I think about doing like clean shows, or a corporate gig, or like a cruise, and I think there's give and take to all of it. I think, like, for one, like, I think it sucks to have to deny your own identity to get work. But I also understand wanting to be heard by people that might shut you out because they make all these assumptions about you based on a label or something like that too.
And that's what I found in the scene, in some of the fellow comedians who were like Republicans or harder people came up and was like, you know what? You took what my perception of what this is and just flipped it up and upside down and just threw it in the trash. And I was like, well, that's good.
But here's what I'll say about talking about it here. If anybody is here that is not like down with people being open about who they are, then I don't want them listening to this podcast anyhow.
See, I'm just a hoe. Give me them likes, them followers. Give me that. I don't.
Yeah.
Give me that Saudi money. All right. I'll take it. I'll be like, I'm going to donate the majority of it, but I'll give me the money. No.
One thing that I think is important, and it doesn't sound like, I think there's a difference between just not telling a certain set of your jokes and like pretending to be somebody you're not. And it sounds like, for the most part, like there's just certain jokes that you just don't tell in front of certain crowds, at other points, it's just, okay, this is like the crowd that can take these jokes. And I don't think that's much different than any other comedian, to be honest. to be honest, or like smart comedian at least. Like it's okay if reading the room is important.
You have to. I perform in this place, and I don't say anything about it. It's like it's one of my favorite shows that I do. That they asked me back again this year. Next year they already asked me, they want me to headline it. And I'm like, wow, that's cool. But like, it is about 130 red hat, blue collar type of crowd. And I went there, I was like, man, these are not, I don't think this is my demographic. You know what I mean? But then you do 25 minutes in front of you and they want you to come back. They're looking forward to you next time and that.
Yeah.
And you're just like, every time I leave that show, I go, man, I wonder if I did that material, if they would still want me back. Every time I live there. But that's the thing. And it's like I had a certain perception because like you got this crowd that you're in a wild spot when 7 people come in to watch a comedy show wearing their finest hunting camo. I'm like, wow, you went all out. You got dressed up for this. Are you trying to bag some whitetail? Like
that shit's expensive. They're just showing it off, man.
Yeah. But so I got that crowd that loves me. But how much would they still love me? And you got to read the crowd.
Like, what's important is like the jokes that you do tell are still very true to yourself.
100%. They're more true a lot of times.
Yeah, like one thing that we've talked about on this podcast a lot is like the more authentic you are, like the more people are going to connect with your art in the long run because it's like coming from this real place and it's really being you is the only thing that's actually unique, right? Like everything else is already been done.
And I feel that's why telling a lot of transit jokes aren't really me because that's 20 some years ago. It came out in 1998.
Also an adjective. Like it's not like an identifier, right? Like it's just an adjective. It's like saying you're tall. You know what I mean? Like it's just an adjective or saying I'm loud.
It's been for like 20 years a back pocket issue. Right? Oh man, the only time it really needs to come out is when I'm dating someone after a couple dates. Hey, so by the way, I'm gonna make sure you're not gonna kill me first. That's why I fell it out. And some girls got to worry about getting sexually assaulted. I worry about murder first. It's great. Yeah. It is.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just such a back thing issue for me. So it's a lot easier to tell other jokes than it is to like reach back 20 some years and go, oh, hey, some jokes seem to be able to work.
No, that makes a lot of sense to me. And like I said, it's part of your identity, but it's not like a big, it's not something that like defines you either. Right. No. Like
it's not even close.
And like one of my very close friends, like in real life, is a trans man, and the only time it ever comes up is when somebody's trying to take his rights away. Like that's the only time it's ever relevant to like pretty much anything that we're doing.
Yeah, that's every Tuesday anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Fun. They make it fucking relevant. It's like, pretty much like a pretty irrelevant to most of our lives, like in everyday life, until people try and turn it into a thing.
You want to make a difference to society? Why don't we label the Klan a terrorist group? Why don't we label the Proud Boys actively killing people a terrorist group? Instead, you go after a population that's like what? Yeah, less than 1% of the population. Hey, these are the bad people. Look.
But it is something that 20 years ago, growing up, you did have to struggle with, and it was something that was And one thing that we've talked about a lot on this podcast, and I like to examine with people, is like how much of joke telling or other forms of art, improv, how much of that was to process some of that stuff. Did you get into any art growing up to deal with the struggles that you were dealing with your identity or anything like that? Or
honestly, in the beginning, I was just depressed because there's something crazy and different with you, and you just don't know that it is, and then you find out that, oh wow, you're not alone. I pretended to be sick because I saw like one of the talk shows had this person that was trans on. I'm like, oh my God. And that was the first time I was like, other people think like this? Other people? This is how they feel? I'm not alone? And so I pretended I was sick. I was like, oh my God, I did the old ET thing where you stick like the thermometer on the lamp and try and keep the thermometer up. Like,
yeah.
oh, look, I'm sick, Mom. I don't feel good. And I stayed home and I watched that. And I was like, oh my gosh. And it was eye-opening. And I was like, and so you keep it inside. But like, even at that point, I was playing hockey, ice hockey, roller hockey, street hockey, because playing goalie was one of the only times that I didn't think about myself. All I had to focus on was stop the puck. That's it. And I got really good at that. And I was looking to play juniors up in Canada. And I was like, you know what? Why am I going to play in Canada? So I can be myself or live more true to myself. They're not going to let me play hockey and do this as well. So I just came out to my parents instead and be like, hey, I'm not running anymore. And that's how that came about.
Yeah.
But I always tried to do
thanks
theater.
for talking about that.
Yeah.
You actually brought up the reason I brought it up was because I think having people like you tell their story, maybe somebody out there will hear you talking about it and will feel the same thing that you felt that day.
Yeah, it's probably government agency wanting to strip my rights away. That's probably who's listening. We got to find this Epolight Lavalle person and we got to cancel them.
You're not trying to play hockey anymore, so I feel like you're probably safe.
Well, there is a women's league that just asked me to play again this summer. So, yeah, I will be.
Anyway, it's not with the NCAA, so I guess you're good.
Not anymore. I did play in college, though. I did play in college.
And I think you're literally the first trans athlete, and I know a lot of trans people, but you're literally one of the only trans athletes that I even know of in a way that like played competitive. Like to talk about again and just how small of a population that they focus on to persecute and to make this issue out of.
On the books they were like, how many trans people are in this state? I forget what state it was, like Iowa or something. They're like 0 trans girls and 2 trans like guys or something. Like, oh no, like we regulate them out of existence. And this one girl was like me. I was reading up and she didn't start because I played in high school as well. My senior year, I started field hockey. My friends were playing it and they were like, oh, why don't you play field hockey with us? And I played field hockey. And then basketball came up and I'm like, I don't know how to play basketball really. That's not my sport. But I was like, athletes get special gym lockers that are private. So I was like, I played basketball in high school because of the more secretive, secluded locker for gym class. This is really the reason I played, is because I wanted a more private locker room to get changed in for that. And so I ended up playing that. I won an award playing basketball, by the way. I won an award playing women's basketball. It was the most improved player. Okay. That's how bad I was. You only give out most improved player to someone who's like, you know what? You tried, honey. You tried. But
I wonder how many cisgender people you beat for that award.
Right, dude. There's one other girl that was like, hey, I'm just here. My thing is, we played, I forget it was like a Catholic school, and this girl was going D1. And there's such a big difference in women's sports compared to girls who aren't even going to play in college. You got girls that are playing D1, D2. And this one girl was D1 top recruit, just murdering our entire team. There's like, we could have put 8 girls on her. It still wouldn't have mattered. Okay. That's how big of a gap in some women's sports are, because these D1 recruits, they just mop the floor with them. We had a couple D2 recruits, or hell, I ended up playing D3. I don't know how, only because I knew the coach and body, I'm like, oh my gosh, really? I'm playing in college now? I didn't even know what I was doing a year ago, but that's a whole different story.
So were you super competitive growing up and playing hockey and stuff? was that part of it for you? Were you competitive about it?
It got competitive because literally playing goalie was the only time that my mind shut off about any part of my identity.
Yeah.
The only time I felt normal was stop the puck, and I got good at it. I was at like 5 teams at one point, just because, again, like a drug, you need to take more of it to have it not get in there. So I guess I did, but
at what point did you start? Were you like the funny person on all your teams too?
Yeah, and
the weird. I've always been the weird one too. Like I'm a straight cis man, but I'm always been the weirdo because I'm neurodivergent and just like loud, and I don't pay attention to a lot of things that a lot of other people pay attention to.
That's all dull. All right, people are like, oh, what's a new phone? What's this? I don't care, dude. I'm more curious about the stuff that no one else is paying attention to, because that to me is interesting.
And I think that can be hard as a comedian.
Extremely.
Because you want to talk about these like higher brow subjects. And I call myself a stand-up philosopher, and that's just it's really just a scapegoat in case I don't get laughs. I'm like, hopefully they at least thought about something I said. But I think like it's one of the most challenging types of jokes to write for an audience to relate to that isn't. I feel like people like Neil Brennan have their crowd, right? Like he and they're all mostly smart people. They all can get on board. But like when you're just doing clubs and you're trying to write material for the everyday person, how do you avoid going for the lowest common denominator, even though you're like aiming for some of these higher concepts?
You sometimes have to play the part. It is unfortunately the nature of the business. Before you can be a Neil Brenner and get your fans who know what they're getting into to buy a ticket, I have a joke thing for everybody. I go to Pottstown, PA, drive an hour to 2 hours away, depending on traffic, to hit like a MAGA or red hat crowd and see if these jokes work in front of them. And then you go to Center City, Philly, Fergie's, the most liberal mic that you can go to, and hit that place and see if your jokes work there. And then you go to Bar 13, which is a mix between dark humor and African Americans and that. And it's a very wild demographic of people that go there. And like you can see if your jokes hit there.
Yeah.
And then you'd go High Note is just mostly a lot of like white guys and comics, and you go to that spot, a very white bread crowd. And you try your jokes at different audiences just to see what hits, what slaps, what doesn't. And so when I do a show, like I have my one joke I do called Paraplegic Dick. One of my favorite jokes. Only works in front of African American people, it seems. Like it is one of my favorite jokes, but sometimes you got to test it out. Like it slays with this demographic, it works great. And then you do it in front of a lot of different white people, and all of a sudden it's like they look at you blankly on stage. Like, what are you doing? I'm like, I am acting out. I'm doing this. So you don't know. So have a good, diverse book. And then once you get established, you can do the jokes you want to do a lot of times. But right now, you find out what works is going to get you booked to get where you need to be to the next level. I feel
I just talked to this rock band, Thelma and the Sleaze, and lesbian fronted, all girl, like punk heavy rock band, really high energy shows. And they were talking about how they don't like to always play for they want to play for the MAGA crowd. Sometimes they want to play they don't want to just be in an echo chamber, because then it just becomes like this thing where nobody is really being challenged. Nobody's really being, it's not punk rock if nobody is like upset at what you're doing.
I agree. I totally agree with them, because that's the last time that's how I feel. Like up until this point, sometimes the ultra liberal crowd didn't always like my jokes sometimes.
Yeah.
I can be sassy. I can be very sarcastic with my jokes. Like
and a lot of the time, like the liberal crowd is like way more like woke in terms of policing what people should or shouldn't say than like the people that they're policing it for. I feel like. Do you think that's true?
100%. I had this one girl say something. I'm telling a true story about high school, transitioning in high school, and I was like, "Oh my god, like you're like very transphobic right now." And I'm like, I was like, "What?" I'm telling a story from my point of view, my life that happened to me, and you're like, "Yeah," you're like, "Really?" I'm like, "Wow, with allies like you, can't even." Like it's no wonder we're getting legislated out of existence. But it is. I was talking about when I dumped a boyfriend of mine who came out to me, and I'm like, I just can't deal with this right now. I just can't. I just got. It's like going on a roller coaster where it makes you piss yourself, the ups and downs, and it's like, hey, let's go again. I'm like, no, I'm good. I just got off the ride. I need to change first. Years later, I came to regret that. We probably would have been married. We probably would have had adopted kids. We probably did a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
But at that time, I wasn't strong enough to deal with it. And I'm telling this story about how I pissed a lot of liberals off, like different crowds. And I'm just like, wow, that is, this is what happened to me. I don't know how to not make it funny, but at the end of the day, that's one of my biggest regrets in life. But
yeah.
As a comedian, I gotta try and make it funny. Okay, like it is. That's where comedy stems from. One of my biggest tragedies in life, and here so maybe a better comedian would figure out how to keep them on board, because I did that in front of a red hat crowd. Oh yeah, F them trans. I'm like, I didn't say that particular word, but I was like, all right, I don't want that response either. Okay.
And how often do you worry about the perception of your jokes, and or do you ever worry about it? Because like I feel like I have to worry about it sometimes. Just it's like dodging lasers for me. If I want to talk about a certain subject, like I almost have to put certain disclaimers in there, and it really is that scene in Mission Impossible where you're just dodging lasers. But I feel like you, from your perspective and from your identity, you're able to talk about a lot of things openly without thinking about how it's going to be perceived until somebody says something like that to you. Does that stuff like get to you?
Well, I stopped really talking about that subject, to be honest. There's some people in the Philly comedian, the whole group that don't even know.
Yeah.
Because a couple of years ago, if they just like 3 or less years into the scene, they might not even know I'm trans. Right. It is because I don't talk about it, and where I'll get pissed if I bring it up, you can piggyback off it. But I hate more than anything is when I don't talk about my business and someone brings that shit up. And now I'm like, look, now you're messing up my jokes, because maybe I want to talk about my vajayjay. And now you got them second guessing the audience. What's it like? What is it? They're not listening to me. So now you ruin up my punchlines and timing and everything, because these people got something else in their mind.
Yeah.
You know,
I think about like
things piss me off.
So you at some point you stop playing hockey, you finish college, you're always the class clown. When did you start? And it sounds like humor was always like a coping mechanism for you. At what point did you start doing improv?
It's weird. It's something that I would always do, not around a lot of other people. I wouldn't say that. Like I would just pick a character, pick something, and put myself in that role.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I'm at the point to where if I get inside of a role, I can actually make myself cry.
Gotcha.
And that's I don't know.
Like aspirations to act?
I would love to. I'd probably be one of those crazy method actors, because once you get locked into some character, it is tough, because I have a lot of empathy for a lot of people. I can feel their pain.
Yeah.
That's always been something that I could do, and for the better or worse. So sometimes putting myself in their shoes can literally make me cry, or feeling that emotion that somebody else feels. Some people have no empathy, which is wild to me. Apparently I got theirs, but
I think good comedy requires empathy, though. Like, it really, you have to really be able to understand what it's like for somebody else in a bad position to find the humor in the situation, because otherwise it just becomes mean, right? Like, you have to be empathetic. And I think, like, most comics that are like good comics, like, most of their jokes come from a place of empathy, even if if somebody like Anthony Jeselnik, right, who is like a shock comic to the kind of to the extreme, mastered his craft, very precise with his words, but he's never like punching down, oddly enough. Like, it's still always handled with care in this weird way that you're like, holy shit, I can't believe he said that, but it doesn't sound hateful.
And I think that's the next level for some comedians to get to. So like, how many times have you seen people just punch down? I'm like, wow, that's a good joke, but you're going to have someone alienated that's going to just tune you out. And then no matter what you say from here on out, and that's fine, that's not your audience. But at the same time, going back to where we were, like, sometimes you got to play the part to get booked, to get to that where you want to be for yourself.
Yeah. And find some kind of path there. To be to be honest with you, like, I'm not sure I'm willing to play that part in the comedy game, but I'm hoping that through other ways, doing the comedy the way I want when I do comedy, but also this podcast, also other avenues. I host some trivia games and things like that too. But I think, like, finding a path there, however it works for you, like, you have to play. And I guess that is my way of playing the game, right? My way of playing the game is, okay, you do all these other things that can help bring some attention to what you're doing.
That is ideal.
Not, okay, part of it is an opportunity thing too. In fact, for the most part, I would say it is. If I had a dozen comedy clubs to go do open mics at in my area, like, even within an hour or two, like, I would do that, right? But that just doesn't exist in my area. So VR comedy has been extremely helpful for me in that respect. Like, living in I live in a city, but it's a more rural type area in general. It's not 20 minutes in every direction is farmland. It's not other cities.
I mean, my daily commutes for a lot of mics is average about 40 minutes.
Yeah. And how many mics are you hitting a week now?
Today, I will go the place. I don't know where I'm going first. Probably go to Bar 13 in Wilmington, Delaware today, which is about 38 minutes from my house. It'll take 38 minutes to get from there to Haddonfield, New Jersey, which is High Note Humor. And it'll take me about 38 minutes to get back to my house. So it is, and that's just for today. So I'm traveling an hour and 30 minutes on my Wednesday just to hit 2 mics. Like, Tuesday, you can hit at least 4, maybe 5, depending on what you got going on. But that's a possibility. There's another one opened up I got to check out. But if I can hit 2 or 3 mics in a night, that's ideal.
Now, one thing that you've done that I always thought was really cool, and I don't know if you've done it super recently. For a while there, you were taking your headset to open mics occasionally, and comics there would come in and do a VR open mic set as well. I always thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I would love to do that again, but they just changed up their Wednesday open mic to Kill Tony style thing. So I don't know. I'm in limbo right now as to what to do, because I don't want to bring a real life comic into a 2-minute somewhere else just to rip a set. It's fine because I had Medina from Delaware on there. She was on Kill Tony. She did phenomenally well on there. She ripped the set in VR a couple times. Some other bigger comedians like Dylan Tucker from Delaware. I he came in one day. I think he ripped like 10. The dude usually charges like $300 for a show, and he came in there and just ripped straight 10 for just to have,
VR
just to
crowd,
try it
yeah.
out. Yeah,
That's
and
awesome.
there's a lot of phenomenal comedians that would try it out, but now I don't know what to do because I don't know if there's another open mic on Wednesday that I can bring it to. I'd hate for them to have their first taste of the comedy in VR get dumped into a pit for,
Right.
because you never
Yeah.
know. It's a funny thing that I see between comedians doing VR comedy for the first time and that, because they can be extremely phenomenal comedians. And then you put the headset on, and then all
their
of a
first set is
sudden,
just wow.
yeah, there's so much stimulus. Oh, dude, Pac-Man looks like Miss Pac-Man just left them, took the house, took the kids, and doing walk on 4 ghosts in front of them. It's like
They start doing crowd work with the animated characters.
And they lose all train of focus on their set and just go into full amazement. That happened to me. Ronald McDonald came in wearing a speedo with French fry pubes, and I could not concentrate on what I did. But then you have some comedians who will just roll with it. I think most of them usually they get high or other stuff before they get into real life sets. So they put the headset
or maybe
on.
they just play a lot of games already or something.
I was like, wow, dude, this is like me tripping on something right now. Oh, okay. Who hasn't talked to Grover from Sesame Street while performing comedy before?
Yeah, I gotta say, like that suspension of disbelief, though, it goes away really quickly. Like I don't even really. I'll remember telling a joke, and I'll have trouble remembering whether it was in front of a real crowd or a VR crowd, or things like that, or just remember a set I did and have very little distinction in my memory as to whether it was like in here or at a comedy club. Yeah. It's weird. It's weird how real it does feel, especially for something like this.
It can, definitely. And I'm glad, because some of my friends, after performing in VR, buy headsets. So, I love this.
Yeah.
David Burrows bought a headset after ripping in the Filter Under open mic on a Wednesday. He's like, I need to get this. Paul Carson is like, oh, every time he's about to get one, something happened to his car, it broke down, and this, he needed that. So he was finally able to get a headset, and he's been loving it. Marcos comes in, London Duran, he ripped a set. That's my boy London right there next to me. He ripped a set in VR and is like, oh my gosh, I need this, mommy. And I was like, all right. And bam. So it has a lot of uses. I've done paid shows in VR.
Yeah,
paid to not leave the house. Amazing.
It's pretty great. So I want to back up one more time to when you started doing stand-up comedy, because first of all, how long have you been doing stand-up now?
I started stand-up doing comedy during the pandemic.
So you actually started in VR before you did it in real life at all?
Yes, that's why.
That's really great. I first went to a show before I did a VR like comedy show, but I performed in person a couple of times before I performed in VR. But then I very quickly found myself in here like multiple times a week, especially early on.
Yeah, I had my CB1 Rift. I had nothing to do. I was depressed. The world was on fire, it seemed like. Everything was, you couldn't do anything. And took me under the wing. I was making them laugh, just being me, doing some fun stuff. It took a shine to me, some of the comics. And then they were like, hey, I got in with them. And the next thing you know, I'm doing comedy. It's something I always wanted to do, tried to do, but part of my aspect of my life was like not what would happen if people learned about me or anything like that.
Just afraid to be vulnerable in that way.
I could be vulnerable, but not in that way at the time. So it's like I didn't do it earlier, and then I get into VR and I was like, you know what, let's try it. And so that's really what got me going, was doing it in VR, and
that helps you build the confidence to be vulnerable on stage in person once you started doing it in VR?
It is.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it was a wild time because I went in the beginning. I only did 2 mics. There's Thursday mic in Center City, Philly, the Raven Lounge, and it was more liberal space, more of this. And I started doing those trans type jokes then. And then at Bar 13, it was more like a different vibe crowd, as stated. And at first like month or so, I did a different set. I was doing 2 different sets for the months in 2 different places. And then eventually I remember that the anticipation of, okay, let's try this set at the being trans in high school set at Bar 13. I remember being somewhat anxious. And there's something wrong with the stage, so I wasn't even set up properly. But it was a lot more welcoming than I thought it would be. It's what it is. There's different growing pains to doing comedy. There's different things you learn about yourself as well doing comedy.
I did a lot of public speaking before I did comedy, but not in like a vulnerable way. It was always like a instructional way kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I do think that doing comedy in VR, even though it's not, I was doing it a lot early, but it wasn't like the first place. But I was doing it here a lot early on, and I think it is part of what allowed me to just be myself without judgment and feel free. And then like once a joke that's vulnerable, like once it gets a laugh, like it's so much easier to go tell it to like real people, like knowing that it's funny. You know what I mean? Like I think it's really a magical thing.
It's funny because I'm a hoe for the laughter. So if something's going to get a laugh, then I've done it. I've did it. Like my jokes are generally 90% true. Sometimes it's that 10% that's false. That
my premises are always true, at least.
Yeah. Well, they always stem out of a reality, but also sometimes the story about being at Raven Lounge one time, and it wasn't just one girl, it was 2 girls after I murdered a set. I remember they had like professional next tier up comedians doing like 10 minutes up front. And I don't remember them even coming back. So they were openers for Helium and other places. And so I come in soon after them and I murdered the crowd. I remember they didn't have the greatest kind of set there, and I destroyed it. And this one girl literally told the whole audience in that after that she wanted to F my brains out. She was like, I was just like, wanted to go back to her place, make out, and have relations. And I was like, oh, wow. And in the story, like in the joke, it's pretty much, oh my God, I don't know what to say. I'm not interested in women. I'm not interested in vagina at all. I didn't know what to say to that. It was a very awkward situation for me. So I just effed her. And that was the joke. That didn't happen in real life. But actually, then I was like, I'm going to go downstairs. And then one of our other friends was downstairs. It's like, oh my God, I want to marry you. Do you want to go back to my place? And then I'm like, oh my God. And I went home. I was like, I can't deal with this. And I left. But for my closer is the eye after. I'm not interested in women, but I'm really not interested in confrontation. But it's that at that 10% sometimes that puts it over the edge. And
how long do you think you were performing just in VR before you started performing in person?
Probably maybe a year because nothing really was open.
Yeah. So you started like with the Quest 1 when the Quest 1 came out?
No, I had a CV1 Rift.
Oh, wow. Okay. So
that was before the Quest 1.
You were a PC VR OG. Okay.
Yes.
God. So how did you get into VR in the first place? Was it a social thing?
It. I just always wanted it. And then I was like, I got to rebuild a PC. So I rebuilt my PC and made sure it was going to be competent for a headset that I didn't even own yet. And then Meta, just knew it as Oculus at the time, dropped their price by $100 to $400. I'm like, let's do it. bam. And then I get a bill from Facebook for $400. I'm like, what? Facebook? I wouldn't have bought this thing. No, I thought this was Oculus. But I fell in love with it. I enjoyed it and found the group sometime. And then the pandemic happened a couple months later.
You had the headset before the pandemic happened, but then it was like, you were like, okay.
Yeah, it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And then when you don't have anybody to talk to, I start finding the social apps more interesting.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, no, there was especially like AltSpace back in the day, and that's where I first encountered it. There was something really special about that platform in particular. I think it was very, there wasn't a lot of the kids or the younger teenagers or like edgelords or whatever. There was a lot more community, I think, and a lot of it was based on how they structured the platform.
Yeah,
I think that was what the day AltSpace died was a very sad day for the VR community in general. I think.
I mean, it was built for event spaces.
Yeah, it really was.
VR chat's amazing. It looks amazing. Everything's great. But events sometimes just don't hit like they did in AltSpace. They don't have the same moderation tools. You don't have a lot of the same abilities to have your
I would
events.
love it if VR chat would integrate some of those tools into the platform because there's no reason why they wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, I mean, it's surprising that other places don't pick up the slack once a place goes down.
What would you say to somebody who is afraid to do stand-up comedy but has always wanted to?
Being afraid is what makes us human. Being afraid is the fight or flight instinct, but sometimes you have to make yourself feel vulnerable. If you don't, being vulnerable, that's what being on stage is. To listen to that silence, to drop a joke and hear that silence is like a terrible feeling. It's not something you like. I bombed a show so hard in front of 200 people, and it took me 3.5 hours to get home. And I said to myself, never once did I say I should quit, but I said, this is a terrible feeling. I never want this to happen again. And so I worked harder. I did better. I learned to diversify jokes better because, again, it was a crowd that was like, they weren't feeling.
Just not there for what you were putting out.
Yeah, it made me diversify a lot of material and jokes. But no, like, you'll know if you want to do comedy the first or second time, third time you try it. Because
if you
what
bomb
you're going to
and
see,
still want to keep doing it.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you that night, I don't know. I was already doing comedy for like a year and a half or whatever, but it was not a good feeling. It was, like I said, it was probably one of the worst I've ever felt in that regards. But at the end of the day, I was like, man, let's get better, because at the end of the day, I slayed a show at Bar 13. And it is like the highest high you'll ever get. I never really ever tried drugs, but I can only imagine if that's what it feels like, how people can easily get addicted. Because when you're up there in front of a group of people and you are making the entire crowd combust laughing, made a woman pee herself laughing, and that it is a high you'll never forget. It is a high that once you experience it, you want to experience it again. It's indescribable. And if I have a really great show, I had 3 hours of sleep. I didn't sleep for another 12 to 16 hours because that's how wired I was. I was up for 30 plus hours. And that's the type of level high I'm saying. But sometimes you got to feel vulnerable to feel good.
Yeah.
Like, you'll know if you bomb the first or second time that you bomb and you go, man, I want to do that again. But you're probably going to make it as a comedian, because if you can get through the worst part, you can get through the easy parts is good. Actually, that was not good, because I was up for 34 hours and I'm like, I gotta go to work in a couple hours. I at least need I need some sleep before I get to work here. I can't. They're going to think I'm high on, I don't know, coke, heroin, or something, man, because I am blitzed out of my mind on good feels. So,
Epolight,
yeah.
It's been awesome talking to you. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we wrap this up?
VR is a great space to try comedy out. Overall, VR is a wonderful place for even seasoned comedians to come in, to go, hey, this is a place where I can work on myself without being in front of the company of my peers.
Yeah.
To where I find that I do better in VR than I do in real life because I don't care as much in VR. And then
You're more free.
I'm more free. And then I realize that, and then I start putting that into my real life comedy. And I've been turning a page recently to be better, to do better, to be seen for how I always feel like I'm seen. And it's turning pages. But I wouldn't have realized that maybe unless I came in here. And so I realized, like, hey, that attitude error, the Epolight attitude error has begun, to where it's a great tool. You can work on yourself, work on jokes, work on performance without having to feel exposed in front of your peers.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. It is like this private space I have away from my real life friends. Epolight, it's been awesome talking to you. Thanks so much for being here.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me.
I don't know why I did finger guns. It's one of the only ways we can express ourselves.
Really? Express yourself.
Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed that episode with Epolight. Go check her out anywhere she's performing. Got links to her stuff in the description of this episode. Please hit subscribe. It really helps everything. So if you've enjoyed this, please hit the subscribe button. And we got a lot of great stuff coming this season. Some stuff I can't announce yet, but you're gonna be amazed. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We're gonna keep going with comedians the next couple of weeks. We got Sean Lubin next week, then Evan Rossi. Then we're gonna bring it back to some music. So Laj Curry from Parliament Funkadelic, with the band since the 70s. It was a mind-blowing talk. That's coming in a few weeks. Franz Nicolai, Matthew Cravener, he's a film composer. So just lots of variety coming. I'm really excited for what we've got going on. Thanks for listening. Take it away, Sloan.